Hey guys, this is Eric, the OBXPicker. Today we are shooting a new episode of Whatcha Pickin with a special mystery guest. You want to stay tuned for this one, guys. So he said we could come right on in, make ourselves at home. So we're going to do just that. I can come on in. We're going to be hanging out in here for today and going to be interviewing, like I said, one of my favorite resellers of all time. I've been on a lot of picks with this guy. So let me introduce you to OBXPicker. So OBXPicker, we're here in your shed today and we're going to be doing an interview. And I want to just go through some questions of your history of picking. What is it that got you started picking? Hey Eric, man, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for doing this interview. One of the things that got me started picking, you know, I tried to think before we did this interview, like how long I've been picking, what got me started in it. You know, some of the questions that I knew you'd probably ask. I was thinking back today, as far as picking, my granddad was a farmer. So I've picked crops long before I picked anything else. But obviously, you know, you're talking a little bit about a different kind of picking. But I do remember my father was a minister, and we always went to these small churches. So he always had side hustles going. Maybe that's kind of my entrepreneurial spirit as well. We used to go pick tomatoes and corn and watermelons. And we lived down on the beach. My grandfather had a farm in Northwest Florida, and we would go there, pick crops and take them down to the beach and sell them side the road sometimes. So, you know, that's really like picking and flipping, but in a different route. That was one of the things, I guess, early on. I was probably, you know, in between 10 and 12 years old when all that was going on. So I remember it vividly, obviously the picking side of things. And then, you know, us hanging out, then we'd usually get something, you know, stop and get my dad would say a cold drink and a pack of nabs after having a day of that or during the midst of it. But we, you know, we grew up having yard sales and going to yard sales and that kind of stuff. So I've kind of was somewhat comfortable with that kind of stuff. But I can tell you, for me, as far as getting started picking and flipping, you know, as in school, I used to buy comic books and basically trade them with my friends. There weren't a whole lot of money exchanged. I have sold candy at school, like a lot of people talk about. I have traded baseball cards, that kind of stuff. So, you know, there is a lot of that picking and, you know, flipping kind of stuff in my history. But one of the things that really keyed in for me as far as that, hey, I could do this for a living. This is something I could do and make good money at if I put in the work. One of the things that kind of triggered that is my daughter actually used to sell LuLaRoe. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that's, you know, clothing brand. It was basically like an MLM type thing, multi-level marketing. They had people that would sign you up. They would get a cut of what you sell, that kind of thing. So she got involved in that. She actually made the investment solely on her own, bought their initial inventory package. I think it's over $6,000. So she worked and saved money and actually took out a small business loan, like a small loan, and I got started with that. And she was doing all right like the first year or so, and then she kind of lost interest. She was young when she did this, early 20s, so she lost interest in it. Anyway, she had moved on, moved out and had other interest and other job and all that kind of stuff. But we had a closet load of LuLaRoe stuff that we were trying to figure out what can we do to get rid of this stuff. So I actually started looking on eBay and seeing that, you know, you can sell this stuff for decent money. So that's what we did, is just started putting it on there. I mean, LuLaRoe's kind of played out at this point. There are still people that sell it, you know, $10, $15, $20. But we ended up listing some on eBay, and we sold a few, listed some on Poshmark, and we sold none. But that's kind of what got me started in initially flipping, like selling things that we had here at the house. And then I got interested, started watching a few YouTube videos, seeing other guys that were making money at it. Went and to a yard sale, found a whole bunch of Marvel action figures and started selling those. And when I started selling those, I was actually the return on investment was phenomenal. I think I invested like $45 on that initial buy, and I bought like 4 totes and a box of action figures. So when I was listing those things, I was selling them practically every day. That kind of set the hook for me. That's the thing that got me reselling. And so from there, it's just blossomed. You know, I've grown. Now I do this full time. I do have some other side income, side work that I do occasionally, but for the most part, this is what I do. I go and I find stuff and I list it and sell it online. Sometimes I sell it locally. Sometimes I have certain people that are looking for certain things that I can just flip to them without having to list it or do any of that kind of stuff. But it's turned into not just a job, but kind of a little bit of a lifestyle. You know, this is something, when you're doing this, you're always thinking about you know, things you could flip or places you could find stuff. So it's kind of cool. It's been a pretty neat journey for the past like 2 years, about a year and a half, almost 2 years now. I've been full-time doing this. So it's interesting to see that. So what would you say was one of your more interesting picks that you found, or maybe some things that you like to pick up when you're out there picking? Yeah, I mean, the most interesting flip for me that I've had so far, I mean, there's lots of things that I look for, but we've honestly, I mean, I've sold all kinds of cool stuff. I've sold things that were expensive. You know, I sold a box of Pokemon cards. Me and a buddy of mine found in a kind of abandoned. There's actually a link, a video that I have on my channel that you can go back and watch the item I sold on eBay for $2,500. That's a cool one. It was a Japanese Pokemon box. I'll tell the whole story about it on there, so feel free to go check that out. But there's stuff I find all the time. You know, I found some vintage Converse that were new in the box. I flipped them. Literally, that's probably my fastest flip. When I listed the first pair, they sold before I could put the phone down. It was like instantaneously almost. So that was cool. I mean, I find stuff all the time that I'm like, man, it's just neat. Like I actually have over here in the corner right now a slot machine. This is a Japanese slot machine. It takes only tokens. But man, that's a cool find. Found that in a storage unit out in the middle of nowhere practically. A buddy of mine had called me and said, hey, I bought all these storage units. Would you like to come and see what's in them? And that was in there. So I was able to score that thing. And I actually have not listed it yet. I've messed with it a little bit, played with it, won the jackpot a couple times. You can actually set the settings to make it easier or harder to win. But I still have not quite found the forum I want to sell it on yet. I don't know that I want to ship it because it's heavy. And locally, I don't know if there's a whole lot of interest in that kind of stuff. So I've actually joined some forums and trying to figure out what to do with that thing. Hey, if you're watching the video and you're interested in owning a Japanese slot machine, I can probably give you a pretty good deal on it. But those things, I mean, they sell anywhere from $300 to $1,200. So I kind of, you know, it's an interesting find. But you know, I found all kinds of vintage electronics. That's kind of what I like to mess with. Is I just think they're cool to find something that's 40 years old that still works and still plays and sounds great and all that kind of stuff. So I found a bunch of Marantz stuff that was good. I find old stereo units all the time. You know, like everybody else, combo units is something, if you're a reseller, you hear about all the time. But I like the vintage electronic stuff. I've recently started getting more into antiques, just older stuff, like nothing in particular. But I'm one of those things, I guess I could say I'm an yeah, I guess I couldn't say it, but opportunistic. Maybe that's how you say it. Sorry, guys. It's one of those things. But I'm an opportunistic picker. Say that 3 times fast. Opportunistic picker. I'm always looking for something, you know, and I take it as a challenge to find something when I go to a sale. So I try to learn as much as possible. I have a great group of guys that we hang out on Tuesdays, and We talk about, you know, eBay and reselling and what we found, and we look things up for each other, and we talk about, hey, do you know anything about this? There's a great community of people that come on that are in the chat. A lot of times they'll drop links and say, oh, this is this and this is that. So that's been fun. But as far as what I like to pick and what I've found that is very interesting, I mean, the other day I found a NC State like satin jacket that's practically brand new. What I would say it is brand new. In all honesty, it's actually hanging right here. So we'll pull it up. So this thing, man, that's cool. NC State satin jacket. It's not a huge brand name, but I mean, the thing is clean, like no stains, no marks, no anything on it. So that's hanging in a tree at a yard sale we went to. So you never know what you'll find out there. And sometimes you will find something great. Sometimes you'll find some things that you just like. It's the treasure hunt. So would you mind if we take a quick look around the shed? Yeah, I'd be happy to kind of give you a little bit of a tour. You know, this place is a wreck. It's not as fancy as other people's sheds. Mine right now, I have a whole death pile of stuff kind of piled up right here that I've been working on for a while. Some of this is actually going, I have an antique booth. Some of it will be going to that. Behind me, you'll see shelving all the way down on this side. I actually built all this shelving in here, and I kind of have it compartmentalized. I wish, and I know we'll get to a tip section here soon, but I wish I took some advice early on, and I'll give you this advice. Make sure you're logging your inventory in SKUs. It makes it a lot easier on the way, better down the road. So me, I have like the electronics department here on this side, kind of show you that. And you know, this side in the middle, I've got unlisted inventory here as well. And then that's clothing like hat. That's pretty much pants, and then we got hats down here. I don't have the back lights up, guys, I'm sorry. There's some parts here, and then over here, this is the Radio Shack buy that I did. So that was a lot of that inventory. So my shed, for those of you that already ask, it's 14 by 24, and the last 8 feet that you see here on the end is just basically working space. The 16 feet going down that away is an area for storage, and basically that's where I have all my inventory. So we've got that going on. I actually have some stuff still in the house, which much to my wife's not too thrilled about that. But if I could, I'm working on getting it out. I'm working on getting a little bit more organized. It's one of those things. One of the things I do always say is when you work by yourself and for yourself, then basically you don't really have anybody else to do grunt work. You're the one doing that as well. So some days you have to take time to organize and, you know, just get on track. And you know, I'm always looking for ways to improve my business. So it's one of those things that just trying to get organized is always a big part of it. Yeah, for me, so what advice would I give new resellers? For me, get organized from the jump. That always helps. Look up your comps. Don't just take people's word for it. YouTube is a great place for resources, but do your own work as well. If you're merely relying on just somebody else's information, that may not work for you in your area. You know, there's some people that pick certain items because they live in an area where that's in abundance. There's other people that don't have that fortune. You know, I know places where people talk about, hey, we just don't find $100 items every day. So they're having to do it with the $15, the $20, the $30 item. And then occasionally they'll find something that's worth even more. But more times than not, it's stuff that they're just having to hit base hits all the way along the way. You know, there's other things. If you're specializing in something, I do find it's easier to pick and list items that you like, you like messing with. You know, if it becomes just a chore to deal with it, you're probably better spent on something else. But, you know, for me, I like the thrill of the hunt. I'm like most resellers. The listing part of it requires discipline. So The organization obviously requires discipline, and that's an area that I'm working on improving. But I do suggest to you, make sure you're not just taking the advice of something you saw. I mean, use that advice, yes, but learn this stuff on your own as well. Yeah, finally, I definitely would. I would say, man, if you're out there picking and actively searching for items, it does become one of those things to where you have to get creative in how you source. You have to, you may not find the same thing that everybody finds. You may not, but eBay has great tools that you can look up stuff. You can tell, hey, one of the things that I typically do is if it's a new category for me, I look at sold listings, and then I'll search the highest solds. So then, like, say, for instance, if I'm looking at VCRs and I'm looking to see, hey, what's the VCR brands that I should be looking for that bring more money? The brands, the model numbers. It's easy to go and look at what's sold and what's sold for the highest amount, and you can find that. If you filter out the new, obviously, because more times than not, you're going to find those things used. That will help you with that. But it's just like everything else, guys. You're not going to learn it all overnight. It's something that you're going to have to work at. Reselling is a job. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So the more you work at it, the better it gets, and the better you get at it. So that's I guess, one thing that I wish somebody kind of told me in the beginning. Most guys do sell you the story, when you're watching YouTube. I will say that there is a solid group of people that I support, that have supported me, that are in the community. I started out like a lot of guys. I watched kind of the big time YouTube guys, and then I started watching the guys that actually do the work that are YouTube guys. And now I actually watch a lot of smaller channels, but there's still some guys that I learned a lot from. Kevin, Commonwealth Picker, has been a guy that's been very influential in how I pick. Cincinnati Picker, Shed Flips, Part-Time Picker. Matt, I had the privilege of picking with him a while back, and Kevin as well a couple times. And then there's my guys that are with me every Tuesday. Over the years, Tim, great guy, super knowledgeable about glass, super knowledgeable about other things. He's in sports memorabilia stuff, antiques. He's usually somebody that'll help you find something and help you any way he can. Cernoch, man, vintage clothing, hats and shoes. He is the man. Like he'd never say this about himself, but man, he's probably one of the most knowledgeable guys in those categories that I've came across. Especially, hats, shoes. He's, definitely a specialist in that. Shout out for Hat Camp coming soon. Blood, Sweat, Sell, Leroy. He's a guy who, man, he's a worker and a grinder at this thing. He does sets up flea market tables, and the guy knows tools. If you have a tool question, he's your man. Go check out his channel. I'm gonna drop all these channels in the links down below. One of the other guys is Old School Flips. Jimmy, another great guy who, man, he's a toy guy, and he knows quite a bit about that. He would say I'm not an expert at it. He's also, man, he finds the coolest stuff when I'm checking out his channel. And then, I know when you start doing this, you leave people out, and then it's like, oh, well, they didn't say anything about me. But I've got a lot of people that I've learned stuff from along the way that I continue to be influenced by. I watch their stuff and see what they're finding out there. We're in a great community. I mean, most of us in this YouTube / reselling community will answer questions for you whenever you ask, and do the best we can to help you out. But ultimately, the work side of it comes down to you, though. It's whether you're successful or not. And if you don't put in the work, then, I see guys all the time, I haven't sold anything in so long. And it's like, and I've been listing, but really when you look at it, they haven't been listing consistently. It's listing periods sporadically. So one of those things. All right, well, that's my rants over. Hey, I do thank you guys for watching Whatcha Pickin. I know today's kind of been a different one. I'll tell you the reason I decided to do this video and interview myself, which seems kind of weird, but I thought it was funny, was because I had a couple people lined up and they ended up backing out, not wanting to be on YouTube. So I've got some more content lined up, some more pickers, people outside of even the YouTube / reseller realm, people that are just ordinary pickers that find stuff and flip it. Because a picker could be a collector. It could be somebody who is finding something for somebody else, somebody who is finding something to flip it online, somebody's finding something to flip in a flea market or flip a yard sale. I mean, there's people that professionally yard sale. They just go and find stuff and then have their own yard sale all the time. So that's what we're looking to bring, that kind of content to the channel, just to give it a little different look into the thought process of pickers across the country. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I appreciate you guys, each and every one of you who have subscribed. If you haven't, man, it's absolutely free. Please go ahead and do that. And thank you guys for watching the video. Please leave any comments, suggestions, anything that maybe you'd like to see. Maybe you know somebody that's not your average ordinary picker, and if we could do a feature on them, maybe get out to them. I am somewhat limited right now as far as travel. I'm looking to make a trip to Tennessee here the 1st of August. But other than that, we're going to be kind of confined more locally. But I do thank you guys. And as always, hope you find some great picks out there for yourself. Thank you for watching Whatcha Pickin. Have a great one, guys.